Hey guys, we are on live, YouTube Live, Sensible Prepper. Really appreciate you guys joining us today. We're going to be talking about mental toughness, and how critical it is for people that are in life in general, but in prepping. We're going to apply it to that, but really it's in everything. We really appreciate Robbie Wheaton for being here, coming in with his hair on fire, following me about 3 seconds. And and Robbie Wheaton has Wheaton Arms. You got to check out wheatonarms.com. They do a ton of different Glock aftermarket parts. As I always say, their flat face trigger is the best trigger for Glock on the market. And barrels, conversion barrels, I mean, a lot of different parts, guide rods, different things. So check out Wheaton Arms. Plus, Robbie has been a gunsmith for over 20 years. And it really comes in handy when we have some questions about gun stuff. But also he has GoMedGear.com, which they do medical supplies. So check out GoMedGear and WheatonArms.com. Plus he does custom work as well for guns. And Robbie and I, of course, obviously, if you're watching this, Robbie and I do a lot on the Sootch channel. We do most of our live stuff here, but we do a lot of gun stuff together. So we really appreciate Robbie for coming to our Tuesday extravaganza. And then we have Sarah Mack over at the computer, and she is monitoring questions. And so we will be taking some questions as things go through. We'll probably take a break and take in some questions. So you can go ahead and start to ask your questions, and she will go ahead and pick out the questions that, not cherry pick, but pick out the questions that really apply to what we're talking about today. So, mental toughness. And before we get into that, today we have a new sponsor, and that is Exotac, which they make some of the best fire starting tools out there. They just make some of the best out there, and very innovative. They're actually made right there in Georgia. And so it's a USA made the products. And honestly, they are my favorite. I've been using Exotac for many years.
Long time.
Love it. I love Exotac. If I have fire starting videos and everything else, it's just a great resource, and we really love the guys over at Exotac. And this is the big thing. They give a 20% discount.
Wow.
Yeah, 20% using Sootch 20. Sootch 20. There's a link down below in the description. Click on it. It'll take you straight there. It is an affiliate link. And again, we do appreciate Exotac. So let's talk about mental toughness. You know, I was watching something the other day, and I'm going to highly recommend. First off, I found Jocko Willink read a book. I didn't really know who Jocko was. I read the book Extreme Ownership, and Jocko does a lot of things with business, even taking his experiences as a Navy SEAL. I mean, and I'm talking about top echelon. I mean, commander. I mean, great, just incredible guy. And he takes his experiences and he puts them toward business. And it was a really great book. And there's a lot of parallels between it. But he does write other books. But he has a podcast that is absolutely phenomenal. And if you've never watched it, check out Jocko's podcast. But I was watching one of his latest podcasts where he had Mike Glover from American Contingency and Fieldcraft Survival. And I'm a big fan of Mike Glover. I love what he does. Also Special Operations, Green Beret, just an incredible guy. Both of them, incredible men. And that interview is 3.5 hours long. Okay. And it was so good that it even beat Nothing Fancy out. I love Nothing Fancy. I love him. He's my buddy. But it was phenomenal. Now, I didn't sit and watch the whole thing in one sitting, but I was watching sections of it, and I watched the entire thing. It was a game changer. And, and it's a lot of the things that, that I know in some ways, but they're brought to bear. And it's just, if you ever get a chance, I would check that out. And if you have 3.5 hours, even if you just sit and listen to the first part of it, it's really excellent. But one of the things that Jocko is big about is discipline is freedom. And we live in a world of convenience and of comfort and of luxury here in the U.S. We do. We do. We just live in a very easy society. At this point right now, if we need to stock up, get fully stocked up to be prepared for the apocalypse, We can do it if we have the funds. We can go, we can get the things we need, and we can do whatever. And that's great. And there is a part that you do need some things to be able to survive, especially food, water, medical. There are those things, and we talk about those things. There's also a part of that where you need to know how to use those things, and you need to be able to incorporate it. Not just watching a video of me sitting there using a fire steel, but you getting out and actually using that fire steel, batoning the wood, testing your gear, doing those things. There is a really important place in that. But without mindset, without mental toughness, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. And we're going to get into some things about it. But first thing I want to do is Robbie was in the Marine Corps and went through, you know, what Marines go through.
Yeah. Boy Scouts for big kids.
Yeah. Okay. And it's a walk in the park, right? Just, hey, I'm just going to go up there and be a Marine.
That's right.
One thing that I wanted to just kind of let Robbie talk a little bit about basic training. And so you guys kind of know this, but I want to bring this out. So what was it about basic training that transformed you, honestly?
Well, you know, the biggest thing with basic training, there's the majority of the people that go can do the physical stuff. And if you can't, they have platoons that they send you to get you more physically fit to be able to handle all of the physical aspects of boot camp. But the biggest thing with boot camp, whether it's the Marine Corps, the Army, or whatever, is the mental toughness. You have to develop a positive, I can do this, I'm not going to quit attitude. And that's really what carries the majority of the people there over the top and into life, is that I'm just not going to quit attitude. You know, you get up in the morning and you attack the day head first, and you drive that way until you hit the rack that night. And then you're back up the next morning and it's just, you know, head first into life. And that's one of the big things that I saw when I was in boot camp, you know, all those years ago, were the people that developed that mental toughness, that can do, I'm going to do it, I'm not quitting attitude, were the ones that were successful in boot camp. And the ones that didn't grasp hold of that were the ones that eventually ended up washing out, was they just couldn't handle the mental stress of boot camp. The physical stress, like I said, almost everyone can handle that. It's the mental stress that washes the majority of people out of boot camp in any of the military branches.
Right. So, and I think one of the things too is when you're in it, you're just trying to get through it. And I think that's where a lot of people fail.
Yep.
Because they don't recognize this is making them a different person. It's making them stronger.
It is, but a lot of people don't recognize it for what it is.
Right.
You know, it's just a big game. You know, it's just a big mental game that the drill instructors play, that everyone plays to help make your mind stronger. Not physically stronger. You get physically stronger while you're there as well, but to make you more mentally tough.
Right.
To be able to handle whatever comes at you, whether it's the rigors of combat or just the day-to-day stress of life after you get out of the military. You know, the tools that you learn there with the mental toughness side of it are really what make a lot of former military people very successful.
Right. Now, if you take that on to special ops, and, you know, it was funny, years ago, I read Band of Brothers. One of the things that really struck me was, you know, these guys were 82nd Airborne. They were put behind enemy lines during the Normandy invasion. And so they're right in the middle of it. I mean, they're right with the middle of the Germans. They're fighting hand to hand. They're fighting up close. One of the guys, and this was when they had a lull and they were able to get a little bit of R&R, and one of the guys was shot in the butt. And he had to go back to England. And so they treated him. Well, when his group, and in fact, the whole group went for some R&R. So when his group was getting ready to pull out, he'd only been there a couple of days. He packed up and got his stuff together, and he went to join his group. And the nurse was going, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm not being left here to join the rank and file." He goes, "That'll get me killed. I'm going back into full-on danger with a team that's been so disciplined, mentally disciplined, that they're ready to step out." And that's what I've heard a number of times, especially with special forces guys, is if they wash out, they've got to go back to just the rank and file. There's nothing wrong with that. Every bit of this counts together. It's a team. You can't just do it with just special forces. You need other forces to help out. But those guys are the tip of the spear. And so what we really want to kind of focus in on is, guys, you need not listen. The tools, the gadgets, the new guns, the extra magazines, the holsters, all that stuff is great, and it can save your life. But mental toughness and having the discipline to learn these things, the skills. One of the things about firearms is it's a discipline. And you can take your gun out and go, oh, let's see if it shoots, and you're hitting the target and you're doing this, and that's great. But in a stressful situation, how are you prepared to be able to not only defend yourself, but have the mental awareness to know that there could be other dangers, there can be other things out there, and to respond in the right way?
That's exactly right. You're subconsciously going to revert to your lowest level of training in a very high stress situation.
Right.
So if your lowest level of training is a very high level, even your lowest level is still better than the majority of people that don't train at all.
Right.
So, with anything in life, you want to train to be able to do things at a subconscious level, especially a lot of your physical activities, whether it's hand-to-hand combat, whether it's knife fighting, whether it's firearm skills. You need to train those to a very high level. So if you are in a situation to where you have to use one of those tools, you have a huge adrenaline dump, fight or flight response, what am I going to do? You're going to revert subconsciously to your lowest level of training. And that's going to be how you respond to that situation.
Well, and you've shot competitively. We both have shot competitively, but Robbie's shot competitively on a whole nother level with national and 3-gun matches, steel challenge, a lot of different things. It's funny because, in fact, I was in your shop. There was a guy from Dallas that was a police officer. And he said that, they were police officers. They carried their guns. They went and qualified. They did all this stuff. So there was a certain incident, and I'm not going to go through all the details, but there was a wreck on the bypass going around Dallas, and ended up a guy had shot a guy that was driving in the car and had caused this whole pileup. And so when the 2 cops arrive, they don't know what's going on. They just see this wreck. And when they come, they start heading toward this guy getting out of a car, and they're like, hey, do you need some help? And the guy turned around and shot both of them. Didn't kill them, but shot both of them. They had on vests, but shot one in the shoulder, one in the leg, and they're down. And this car comes flying up, and said the car just came around the emergency lane, came flying up. The guy, even before the car got stopped good, he was out of the car, and he brought his 45 up, and he dispatched the dude. Because the guy was going over to kill the 2 cops. And he just went and pegged him. This guy was just a civilian. He was just a guy that was a competitive shooter. And this guy knew how to handle things. Yeah. And he took care of it. And so this guy that was in the Dallas PD went and took some friends, and they went to some of these competitive classes, because it ended up, he said, we need to change things up. And so these cops coming in, and they're going, okay, we're going to wipe these guys up. We know about guns. They got their butts whipped. They had their tail between their legs. It's funny. We used to do, I did IPSC matches, combat pistol matches and stuff. And we had some federal law enforcement there, some U.S. Marshals, a couple of FBI guys. I mean, it was a number of guys there. We ran circles around those guys. Now, and this is what I'm saying. And so a lot of these guys now have gone into this more advanced training, and it's important. And when I say important, people go, it's important. Well, I'm from South Carolina. I don't say important, but except right now. But the fact is, a lot of times we kind of think, oh, we're prepared. We've had some training. We've done some things. But, we need to make sure that we have this mental toughness to be able to exceed and have the discipline to train. Now, I'm going to give you kind of an example, a couple of things. Discipline, number 1. Reaction. Your reaction. If you have some discipline, you can react. Now I'm going to give you an example. We have a driveway alarm, and it's pretty good. I mean, it goes off when anybody comes through. Car comes through, people come through. The first time it went off, now we set the driveway alarm. First time it went off, 3 in the morning, I jump up because I'm like, I know that alarm because I hear it during the day. So I go up to the window. I'm looking through the window, and I'm going, okay. And I have a flashlight. First thing I realize is that when I shine my flashlight in that window, it reflects back on me, and I can see sort of, but then I'm giving away my position, and and it was this reaction of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Okay, I had my driveway alarm installed. I'd taken the first step to know that there was somebody out there, which ended up being my dad, because anyway, it's a long story. But it's funny because I shine the light. Well, I did see him. Well, from that time, the driveway alarm has gone off a few times, like maybe a deer's run through. We've never had it go off where we've had a real situation. But I advanced my skill knowing what to do, where I brought out my night vision and I brought out an IR. And so I'm sitting there, I'm looking around our cars, making sure nobody's messing around out there. And we had some incidences with a neighborhood on over where they had been messing with a car. So I was already, because that driveway alarm went off multiple times, which is very aggravating. It's very aggravating at 3 a.m. And for some reason it's 3 a.m, for me to go and look out that window. But after a while, I had the tools, I had the mindset, and I was able to go, okay, what if there's somebody out there? What is my next step? What am I going to do? We need to put ourselves in some stressful situations. They don't have to be anything where you're, and then competitive shooting is definitely one of them. You're on time, accuracy, speed. I mean, your gear's got to be right. You naturally, do your thing. But that discipline of continuing to work things through. And listen, guys, that discipline carries over not just to a self-defense situation, but because let's face it, what are your odds as a concealed carry holder? What are your odds of actually having to use your firearm in a self-defense situation? They're small. Now, don't get me wrong. They're getting broader, okay? They're getting broader, but it's still a small little level. But here's the thing. If you go out to your range, you're shooting, you're practicing with your gear, you are setting yourself up for discipline, and it will carry over into other parts of your life. It's funny, going to the gun range will help me in my business because it'll help me to focus. It'll help me to focus on the trigger, on the sights. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
And being getting those margins down. I mean, one thing about competitive shooting, particularly, is that you're working against your own self.
You come to realize pretty early on, that you're not competing against anyone else. There might be 500 people there shooting, but you're not competing against anyone else. You're competing against yourself. How accurate can I be? How fast can I be? How consistent can I be? How mentally aware, after being outside in the sun 100 degrees for 12 hours, can I still perform? When my body is at its lowest, when I'm dehydrated, when I'm tired, when I'm exhausted, all I want to do is just sit down. Can I perform? Right. And all of these little stressors or little things that make you more mentally aware, more mentally tough to be able to face different challenges in life.
And there are times where you found yourself not mentally up to it.
Absolutely. We all do.
It affected your response.
We all do. And those are the kind of things where I'm over there making notes afterwards. This is a situation. This is what happened. This is what I need to train, what I need to focus on to make sure this doesn't happen again. Because I'm very analytical about things like that. So I make notes about areas where I was successful. I make notes about areas where I was deficient. And the areas where I was deficient are areas that I would really focus on in my training when I got back home to make myself better, so I wouldn't have those areas of deficiency in the future.
And that's a discipline.
It's
a martial art. Martial arts. I took martial arts for 20 years. There were a couple of breaks, but I've always been into that. And it's one of those things to where it gives you confidence, but it also gives you the ability to know what you can do and what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you discipline in other areas of your life. One of the things that Mike Glover was talking about, and Jocko, during this podcast, was they would put them in a box during special ops training. They'd stick them in this box. In the box, it was the size where you couldn't sit down, but you couldn't stand fully up, and you didn't know how long you were going to be in that box. It was 1 hour, it was 6 hours. You didn't know. And so you're sitting there in this box. He said a lot of people tapped out because of the box, because what happened was they just were like, how long am I going to be in here? What am I doing? What am I doing? He said the one thing that they both agreed on this, they put themselves in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
They said, you know what? This is where I am. This is what I'm finding. I have to just focus right now and say, I accept it. I accept what I'm doing. And he said, then they would separate themselves and they would think about other things. They would think about sitting on a beach, drinking a beer. They'd think about, going to a park or doing whatever, or they think about, their shooting and they would move their conscience to something different. So they didn't focus on that terrible reality that was facing them. And kind of like what we were talking about with the Marines, with the boot camp, if you look ahead and go, okay, these guys are making me and these other guys more prepared for war. They're on our side. They're on our side. Yep. So, that's one thing. And he said the other thing was, which was really kind of funny, is once they got out of the box, they had a hood on. They'd take the hood off and the instructor would go, whap, and slap the fire out of them. So, it's that mental toughness. And he said the one thing Jocko said, he said the first time that happened, he said, I've never been slapped that hard. And he said, I just went, okay. He didn't see. The thing is with discipline and mental toughness, you're able to react
appropriately to the situation.
Yes. I mean, one thing about martial arts for me, and I remember realizing this one time when I was defending this guy who had a broken nose, and I was trying to help him. It was at the beach. It was when I was young. I was really young, and I was helping my buddy, and he had gotten a broken nose at a senior party before we went down, and so these guys were like swinging at him. And I remember I was getting him back, and he was 6'4". Now he wasn't as beefy as Robbie, but he was a tall, strong guy. And I was trying to get him back, and this guy hits me. I mean, square in the right here. And I just remember I thought that dude hit me. But it was like I was so analytical. I was going, that guy hit me, and I went, well, bye. And I hit 3 guys, like boom, boom, boom. Now, I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to brag or say anything. But what happened was, because I had all that discipline through the martial arts, I immediately came up with a reaction that was calculated, that was analytical, and I just did it. It was a reaction. And it ended the fight. Those guys were like, oh, crap. They kind of backed off. But, that doesn't always happen. But whatever situation you're in, you have to mentally prepare for it. Listen, if we face any kind of like COVID-19 and all the lockdowns, and people just kind of went out of their minds, it's because they hadn't prepared themselves with the mental toughness, because we haven't been exposed to it. Okay, if we've got a few questions, do we have any questions? We'll go ahead and kind of throw some things out there. And again, while we're getting this, don't forget Exotac, 20% off, Sootch 20, link down below. And we really appreciate them sponsoring today's escapades. Yes.
Jason Starnes asks, are y'all feeling a repeat of 2020 happening soon? Example, TP shortage.
Yeah, possibly. Definitely. Because now here's the thing, guys. And one thing, and we've been kind of talking about this, there is a labor shortage in the U.S. A lot of people, which I heard this last night, I hadn't heard this before, they have left the labor market and started messing around online and have started businesses online. A lot of people have. So they have left the job. They have left. If you go to a restaurant, I mean, this is happening all over. They are all dying for help.
Dude, I saw a restaurant this morning when I was taking my boys to school that had a $2,000 signing bonus. $2,000 signing bonus to start work there.
I saw McDonald's there that had a $200 sign-in bonus.
$2,000.
Listen, people are desperate. Now, this is the thing. It's not just restaurants. It's at the warehouses. It's at the food processing. It's
truck drivers.
It's truck drivers. It's all over the country. There are shortages of labor, which turn into shortages of goods and services. One thing, guys, and I know we're talking about mindset, but have the discipline to get yourself prepared. It takes a discipline. There are times over the years where my wife and I, we would be like, something would go on and we'd be, okay, we got to make sure that we stock. We got to make sure that we do. And so then we get into this frenzy of doing, and then we'll kind of take a lull and we're not, and I'm like, oh, you know what? We need to do this. So guys, get your basic needs taken care of. Survival is, you know, I mean, food, water, medical, toilet paper for sure. Yes, I do see that.
Yeah, you can't get the JCPenney catalog anymore.
Kevin Caceres, this isn't really a question, but it's a good statement. It takes time to get your mental state ready, so do not get upset at yourself because it does not come quickly.
That's good.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
good. Yeah, because here's the thing. It is a journey, and you never get to this apex. It is a journey as life goes through. It's like reading. Reading is a discipline. I mean, and that's one of the things that I've always tried to do is read a lot of books. And so here recently, I read through some books, and, you know, and I got myself in good shape, and then I take a little break, and then I get back into it. Went down to the beach. I'm like sitting there, I'm reading, you know, and trying to get my mind in the right place, reading good books that'll help improve my situation. And that is a discipline. But yes, it is a continual. And look at situations and problems like pain and like things that you're going through. How can I learn from that? Because honestly, that's the only way we do learn.
That's right.
Is through pain and through trials. That brings us through.
Service Venator asks, to help develop mental toughness as a civilian, do you recommend putting yourself in high stress competitions or training of any kind, or something else to help build this?
Definitely.
Yep.
Mud runs.
All of the above. Anything.
Yeah.
You know, you're running, triathlons, competitive shooting, any of your competitive sports that are going to generate a fight or flight response are going to be beneficial to you.
Yeah, anything that you can do. Okay, I'll give you an example. This is something that we're getting ready to do. We've got, you know, we have a prepper group. We have about 30 people, and it's just where we get together and we have dinner and we have a great time. And like the other night, we went out to eat together. And so we're establishing these bonds. But one of the things we typically do is we'll get together and people will start talking about different aspects of loss of freedom or certain things that are happening. And it can be a big downer. I mean, it can be a downer. Now, one thing about it is men, and this is not across the board, but men tend to ingest that and go, okay, we got to do this. The wives, and I'm just going to tell you from our group, the wives are going, oh my, oh. And so we actually we've had to back off some of talking about all the doom and gloom. And then we just talk about preparedness. One thing that was great was we did a fire clinic, and we all went out and I showed them how we went through and tested our fire skills. And I mean, it was wonderful because it gave them something to focus on. So one thing we're getting ready to do, in fact, we're planning this right now, is we're going to have some activities where we get together and we do things that induce some stress and work on team building. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with survival.
Sure.
It's just about team building. And a lot of companies do this. They see the benefit. So, watch about getting, especially ladies. Now, my wife, Shannon, is strong. I mean, she is a strong, well, Beth is too.
Yep.
They're strong mentally and they'll do it. But even her, she's like, sometimes she's going, I can't.
They have to be to tolerate us.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with all this. I've got to take a break. So, you've got to know where that line ends up. But yes, stressful type things are great. And so, sometimes they'll do ropes courses and different things like that. But even, activities that do give you some stress, some sense of stress.
Well, I like things that combine physical stress with mental stress. You have a physical activity, and once you do the physical activity, then you have to do a mental activity right after that. While your heart rate's up, your blood pressure's up, and have to slow everything down and focus on something that is mentally challenging, and then go back into something physical.
That's good.
And alternate back and forth between mental and physical to not only challenge your body physically, but to challenge your mind and how to deal with things, complex situations under some physical stress.
It's funny because that's what in the Special Forces, and well, even in the Marine Corps, but the Special Forces especially, if you'll study some of the methods that they use, and because what they're doing is they're preparing for a really high stress environment. And so they apply that stress on this level here. When they get out there, it's a lot greater. But with the preparedness that they did here, it allows them. So it will allow you putting yourself under some stressful situations to be able to identify and to be able to react and know your reaction. Yes.
Stephanie Foley says, on the night shooting, if your alarm goes off and you're shining your light to locate your target, are you not presenting yourself as a target by your light?
Yes, and that's why I switched to night vision.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because one night I put my IR, my digital, oh, for crying out loud, the my thermal imaging. I had my thermals. And so I walk up to the window and I put my thermal up, and it's like, meh, because it's a window.
Yep.
You know, it's a learning process. It's a learning process. One thing too is we have lights that go up our staircase up to the upstairs. And they're just these little, you know, white lights. And, you know, my wife has these up here. And one thing I found out is that reflects into the window, and it came back. So what I'm saying is it's a learning experience. That's why having that alarm has been a great thing for me, because it's gotten me into security a little better, and now I've fine-tuned it. So yes, I pull out my PVS 14s, and then I grab now you say, well, I don't have night vision, I can't do that. And you know what? You've got to adapt to your situation, even though there are some fairly inexpensive night vision that are at least basic.
Yeah, the Psionics is
is a great tool.
Yep.
Sonics, and you know, I mean, they still run $500-600,
yeah.
But it's a great camera, and actually you can record. So if you have something going on, you could actually record it. So yes, that is part of the learning process.
Gary Hernandez, Self-Defense and Urban Survival, asks, my question is, what is a good get-home bag when most of your driving is in the nighttime? I drive 115 miles a day round trip for both my jobs. I leave, it's dark, and I get home, it's dark. Thank you, Gary.
Well, first off, I would say read Going Home. Read the Going Home. At least read the first book, because that's what happens. He's in Tallahassee and he's on business, and an EMP hits, and he has to throw his bag on his back and walk all the way to near Gainesville, Georgia. Mm-hmm. And it's a story about that. And then there's 10 books. And once you start reading one, you're going to want to read the rest of them. Chris Weatherman does a phenomenal job. But yes, that's one thing that we have in each of my family's car is a get home bag. 150 miles, you know, round trip, you know, that can be, according to where you are, that can be an extended period of time to get home. So you need to plan out a bag. One thing that I like the Vertex. The Vertex bags are really top notch, and also the Mystery Ranch. And I'm a big Maxpedition guy, but I think for the larger bag that you would want to carry for that, because if I was going in that kind of situation, I'd want something that I could put the essentials, you know, a little bit extra. And really, you want to move at night probably would be the best time if there is some kind of civil unrest or something going on. So I would check out a really quality bag. I did a review on the Mystery Ranch. I'm a big fan of that one, and also the Vertex. Those are on the channel. And just check those out, because they're a little bit larger, and for what you're talking about, I think you'd need that. Mainly for me, if I'm 20 miles out, my standard I have a direct action dust. It's just really a 3-day little pack, or a day pack really, but I've got my essentials in there. But if I'm taking a travel out of that area, I typically beef it up.
Lynn Holt asks, thoughts on the mainstream media talking about ammo shortage?
Well, we've seen the ammo shortage, and the prices have gone through the roof. Yeah. We feel like it's coming back some. Prices and ammunition's coming down, ammunition showing up. I went to Palmetto State Armory. We have one local in our town, and went there, and the ammunition, they don't have a lot of the calibers that aren't the mainstream. And what I mean, 9mm, 223, 308, you know, those kind of calibers. If you're looking for 44 Magnum, you can forget it, because I'm looking for some and I can't find it, you know. And I'm at this point willing to pay whatever. But listen to this, and I'm glad you brought up the ammo. Yeah, the media is talking about it because they want to stir it up. But right now, it's a very important time to pick up ammunition if you don't have a sufficient amount. And so, you know, it's endless how much ammo you could need or whatever, supposedly. But honestly, you know, 300 rounds minimum for a rifle, or, you know, 300 for pistol. And even if it's more expensive, I would invest in at least that much. I wouldn't at this point go out and buy cases of ammunition, because it's just so expensive.
Well, here's a little different angle to look at it. Right, a year ago, we saw early on that there was going to be a shortage in paper products, toilet paper, paper towels, things like that. We got what we needed, so we never had to worry about running out. And then the mainstream media started talking about the toilet paper shortage, and poof, it was all gone.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Take that same thing and put it on ammunition. All right. Ammunition has already been shorthanded for the last year-ish. It's been harder to get. It's been more expensive. Now, when you start getting the mainstream media talking about that, what's going to happen to what little bit of ammunition is out there? It's going to do the same thing toilet paper did. It's going to dry up. It's going to be gone. The costs are going to go back through the roof again, even more than they are now.
That's right. Listen, guys, here's the thing. It's just like the gas shortage that we just had here on the East Coast. You know, they had the cyber attack. So somebody sent me something. They said, oh, there's been a cyber attack on this pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I saw that. And I went, oh. So I put something on our Sensible Pepper Instagram thing. And I just said, hey, guys, go fill up your cars. Called everyone in my family, people I knew. I just texted out. I said, go get your cars filled up.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure they're full, which I try to keep mine full. But sometimes the kids, you know, I just want to make sure they have it. So they all fill up their cars. And I went up to the gas station to fill up my car again. And I thought, because it came out on Fox News,
Mm-hmm.
said gas, you know, blah, the cyber attack. Yeah. I went up to the gas station. There was 2 or 3 cars, people just getting their gas. And I was like, I thought there'd be a line. So I go ahead, I took a couple of jerry cans.
Yep.
I go up there, I fill them up, and then I took them home. The next day, all hell broke loose.
That's right.
And gas stations were just out of gas. Now, let me just say this. There is a curve. You've got to get ahead of the curve. And when something starts to happen, when everybody knows it, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Shortages, toilet paper, gone.
That's right.
But and it's like Robbie was saying, when you start to hear, you're like, oh, this could be a problem. Make sure you have your basics. You don't have to go nuts, but just make sure you have those things that you need. You don't want to let those go down.
Hey, y'all, I have a question. I've been stressing about a no jab card, no entry to work or store situation possibly coming up. Is there any way to mentally prepare for that?
Whew. You know, my personal opinion on that is it kind of falls in line with the concealed weapons permits. If there's a sign on your door that says no concealed weapons allowed, then I don't use that establishment. I'll go somewhere else. And I kind of feel the same way about the whole no jab thing. If you're a no jabby person, then you've got a sign on your business that says if you're a no jabby person, you can't come in, then I will probably patron another store.
But if you're working somewhere, we've got a situation right now where one of our friends and they are totally, no, we're not doing that. And they're getting the woman, his wife, is getting a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a very high position in this company. She's getting a lot of pressure. And they're actually talking to attorneys right now.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things about it, guys, is there are HIPAA laws. There are federal laws where they cannot ask you about medical questions. Now, the HIPAA laws are what they are. My son, actually, where he works, they're like, okay, if you had the vaccine, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you had the vaccine, you have to wear a mask. You know, well, number one, and they've already said it. They've already said, we can't ask you. So, you know, the thing is there are some protections. I think what's happening right now is there are threats being thrown out there, but originally, according to the Supreme Court, they couldn't force vaccinations. But with the way things are going right now, I don't know. What you got? Oh, here we go. The official COVID-19 vaccination record. Just show them that. You don't have to tell them you've had it. You just go. And I know you had. I can't show that. That's what it says on the back. But you know, the thing is, guys, is this is a volatile situation, and I wish I could give you a really clear-cut answer, especially when your job's on the line.
Yeah.
But you know, I'll just say this: you do whatever you do. You not doing it. Not doing it. And I don't want to get this shut down because there are a lot of It's just a
Sorry,
very.
I didn't quite catch that. Could you please repeat?
I'm glad you didn't catch it. That's another thing, guys. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you say.
Um,
That was perfect timing,
I know,
actually.
that was
The
weird.
pro jabby jabbies are listening.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Did you say COVID-19? I couldn't hear that.
This isn't a question, but another statement. Appalachian Gun Runner says a good survival exercise for that is gathering wood, building a fire, and cooking your meal for the evening on it. Add the stress of we aren't eating if we aren't successful.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's great.
Adds physical and
Right. That physical and mental. Yeah. Those are the kind of, and two, those are the kind of things that you're getting prepared for.
That's
you know
right.
what you end up doing? You end up getting your wood set up. You end up knowing exactly what's happening because it takes away some of the stress. And this is the other thing. When you stress yourself in non-high stress situations to where you can think clearly,
Mm-hmm.
when those situations happen, you can think clearly.
That's right.
One of the things I've always said is, if I'm prepared when things happen, I don't panic. Oh, I'm concerned. Yeah, I'm concerned, but I don't panic. And when panic sets in, you make some really stupid decisions. And that's part of the mental toughness. Yep. Don't panic. Don't to react in the right way. When that driveway alarm goes off for the first time, I'm like, tripping over stuff, and that wasn't really the way it went. But, you're kind of like, what's going on? What's going on? And then after a period of time, all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I know what to do. I go in there, get my PVS 14. I've got it set up actually right there.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my IR right there. I've already got my firearm because, I'm crazy and I got them all over the place. So I've got them, so I'm like, okay, what's going on? Let's see. Let's make a decision now. If it's the first time that my alarm went off and I went out there and even with my PVS 14 and I looked and there's somebody there, I'd have gone, oh, instead prepare yourself. Okay, now what's the next step? Let's say there's somebody out there. What am I going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is open the garage door and let our white German Shepherd out. And that'll handle the situation. And then I'll be right behind him for backup. So, making some plans and having them set into place.
If you're going to, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, if you're going to build a fire and cook your meal on it and you get proficient with that, where you can go out there, you can build your fire, put your stuff on there, cook your meal, eat dinner, everybody's happy, throw yourself a curveball and wait until it rains and do that, or wait until it's raining and do that. Or if there's not any rain coming, take your garden hose out there and water everything down and then try and build your fire and throw that stressor on it. Because that's a completely different situation to try and find dry tinder to build a light to get the fire started, and then all your wood's wet. So,
and I have a video on that, and it had been raining for 3 days, and I went down there and I started a fire. And there are some techniques where you can do it. You can do it. So it's not impossible. In fact, it really, if you do the right things, you can get that fire going.
Yeah.
But that's a great idea. And two, if it's raining, okay, we've got to cook. How are we going to cover this?
That's right.
So we can cook. So yeah, that's a good one.
Texas Mike asks, my parents are older and will not be able to bug out. Question, what is a good tactic / practice for older folks to bug in?
Well, first off, bugging out is a horrible idea. I mean, you're a glorified refugee. Now, I'm going to finish this out because there are times where you have to bug out. There's just no choice. You got to bug out. I mean, your house could be on fire. You got to get out. You could be under some kind of, there's groups of roving bands heading your direction. There are times, but honestly, that is a very small part of my preparedness plan. My plan is to stick to where I am, to the people I know, to all my supplies, my tools, my toilet paper, all that stuff is right there.
Your support group of people,
right?
Friends, family, that would all come together to help support one another. I mean, that staying at home, staying where you are, unless it just becomes where it's you can't
because of life in danger,
right? Because of physical threat. You can't stay at home. That's, like you said, that's a last resort to leave.
It's a glorified refugee. Yep. Now, let me say this. My parents live next door to us. My dad turns 81 this month. Now dad's still driving. They're doing but they're not prepared for a bug out either.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. So for me, my whole thing is security, as far as how to secure our location. What are the best things? I mean, there's only so much you can do, but do what you can and think it through. I mean, there are plans that I have because I'm just a little bit bent this way to where if something were to go on and we needed to secure this area, even our road, we can do it, given the right time. But one thing about this whole deal with mental toughness, don't get overconfident. Don't get overconfident. I've been doing this forever. I mean, I grew up with a mom that taught revelations. So, we were kids and we're hearing about, the revelation and all this. So for me, I've always had kind of a bent toward going, okay, things can get ugly. So what am I going to do to take care of that? And so, but even doing that for so long, when COVID hit, and I was looking around and they were having lockdowns and ammunition was going off the shelves, I stopped and I went, whoa. And I'm as prepared as about anybody. Not really. There's some. I'm not a doomsday prepper, but I am in a sense, but I'm not. So the thing is just don't get overconfident with what you have, and realize that your role. And this is one thing that happened, especially during the 80s, really strong, is the lone wolf mentality of, I've got my stuff and I'm going to lock down here and I'm going to hunker down. Listen,
too many people watch Rambo.
You've got to build a community. I would highly recommend making connections with people that are like-minded, people that are concerned. And right now is a great time,
absolutely,
if ever. I mean, for years, people have gone, well, how do I hook up with preppers? How do I hook up with preppers? And, it was like, you've got to find those friends that think the same way you do. But at this point right now, people are wide open. I mean, there are some that aren't, obviously, but those people that are and that are willing to do something, you need to join together and have a community of self-help. For Fowl, in the book, The Modern Survival Guide for the Coming Economic Collapse. And it was about Argentina back in 2001. They had a complete collapse of their markets. And inflation went through the roof. Crime went through the roof. I mean, people that bugged out were actually followed and taken out. They had bug out locations, these gangs and these people, because they wanted their supplies. And he said the one thing that saved his community was that they joined together in Buenos Aires, and they got together in their community, and they had people that worked together. They had security. They had people that were getting food. I mean, they worked together, and that is key. It's really key. So, when you have those that depend on you, you've got to think about how are we going to take care of them and how are we going to build a community. And, so one thing that we have done with our group is, we're not a militant group. We don't talk really that much about political things unless it has to do with the Second Amendment or it has to do with some kind of freedom thing, and we're saying, okay, we need to get more involved politically. I mean, we're just, we don't want to be that guy. But the thing we try to do is build a sense of community and a sense of help, and we work together. And we kind of divide our areas up to where, you can kind of capitalize on this, you on this. And so it really is, I'm going to tell you, it gives you peace of mind. Gives you peace of mind. So when things start going south, hey, I've got some guys that have my back, and we're going to work together on some things. So, all right, where are we? Okay, we got about 10 minutes. So, again, mental toughness, it's something that you have to work on, and it's something you need to continue to achieve. And I think one of the biggest things, and I'm going to tell you right up front, one of the biggest things you need to do is to take that fire steel that's in your pack that you've never used, or even your lighter or your fire tender, and you need to go out and you need to try it. That grill that you got, what if you don't have propane? What is your backup? Because goods and services can disappear. And in an economic downturn, a major one, supplies.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. The biggest thing that I've seen all over the news since Monday this week has been the news talking about, and this is our local media, not on a national level, but our local media talking about all of the evictions and all of the foreclosures in the area because this federal mandate that you couldn't evict or foreclose on someone has ended. And now we're seeing all of these evictions and these foreclosures coming to fruition, where these people haven't paid their mortgage or their rent for X number of months. Now you're starting to see all of this come into fruition. What you're going to see long term is a downturn in the housing market, because you've went from a year and a half of almost no inventory being available, inventory being houses that you can buy or rent, to the market being flooded with homes that have either been foreclosed on or the renters have been evicted.
That's right.
And you're going to start seeing a downturn in that economy, in that industry, which is going to trickle out. You're going to see lumber prices come down because not as many people are going to be building homes. So there will be a trickle down effect. But the downside of that is you're going to see the value of things go down. Your home values are going to start going down again, because the market's going to be flooded and there aren't going to be as many. There's more inventory on the market, which drives the price down instead of up.
Right. And we're probably going to see a lot of homeless people.
Yes.
That are just outstanding, straight up people that have decent jobs. And then all of a sudden, because they couldn't pay their mortgage or whatever, now they're out on the street.
Yep.
What are they going to do? So, it's one of those things that we've got to really be mindful of. And, the sad thing is right now with the housing market where it has been, people have spent $40,000, $50,000 over.
That's right.
The value of the home. And now all of a sudden they're going to lose all that equity. I mean, it can really mess people up. And in fact, that's happened a lot in this area. So yeah, there are some telltale signs, guys, that you need to work on. You need to work on your mental toughness just to be successful in life. You really do.
Well, it helps you to get through. We were talking about it earlier before we even started the show, how, mental toughness, people that are mentally strong, mentally tough, get up every day and just have this can-do, I'm going to go get life by the horns and just drag it around all day. Those kind of people, you generally see them as being very successful. Where people that have a negative mindset, oh, woe is me, the world's terrible, overslept by 5 minutes, my day's going to be terrible today. You're setting yourself up mentally for failure before your day ever starts. All right. One of the coolest things that I ever read, was this article, and I don't even remember the person that wrote it, but it was, get up and make your bed every morning.
Oh,
because that gives you a very simple, very mundane task that you can complete right off the bat. As soon as you get up, you make your bed, you're like, hey, guess what? I just did something this morning. I haven't even brushed my teeth and taken a shower yet, and I've already accomplished something. But it starts your day off in a positive manner and gives you a sense of accomplishment right off the bat as soon as you get out of bed. And that helps to set your mind in a positive direction as you go through your day.
Well, it's funny because that was an admiral that was a Navy SEAL commander. And, and I can't remember. I think Jocko actually just did an interview with him. But
I can't for the life of me remember what his name was.
Yeah. Anyway. But the thing is one thing he said is if you have had a total day that's just nothing's happened good, when you come home, your bed's made. And you go, well, I accomplished that.
I got that done.
So, and that's part of discipline. Discipline is freedom. Guys, we get so sidetracked on different things, and YouTube is a big one. I mean, it just is. You can go down the rabbit hole watching this video, watching that video, and you got to make sure you have balance. And I think that is really one of the keys. TikTok, my gosh, you next 2 hours late, which I don't have TikTok, but TikTok, they're just sitting there, or Instagram, you can go through and look at all these, that is not developing mental toughness. Now, watching good videos, like we've been mentioning, or instructional videos where you can learn.
That's right.
Is important to do it. But unless you take it to the next level and you implement those things. So we could have sat here for the past hour and talked about all this stuff. And you could go, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And then not do anything about it. It was no good. You might as well, I'm not going to say you might as well have been watching TikTok. But one thing, and we're going to kind of leave you with this thought. In a natural disaster, and I actually got this yesterday from Mike Glover, and this was really good, so I'm going to share it with you. But I want to give him credit. In a natural disaster, 10% of the people thrive. I mean, they make it, they pull people in. 80% are in between. They're in there like, oh, okay. And they've got all these different things. And some of them do better than others or whatever. And some of them toward the lower end end up losing their life or getting in some bad situation. And then you have the 10% at the bottom that and usually it's someone that just really gets into the emotional side instead of the analytical side. You need a balance of both, but the emotional side can get you all stirred up. It can get you stressed out. You can, just like Robbie said, it's like, oh, this day's horrible. We don't have the luxury. Your family, the people that count on you, you don't have the luxury to wallow. You have the responsibility to make things better. And mankind from the beginning, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't care if we went to a total collapse and everything went completely nuts. It's happened over and over and over and over through history. So it's not something that we go, oh, it's awful, it's terrible. You know what? It's life. And you just got to embrace it, and you got to do the best with what you have. And before we leave, and I would be remiss not to say this, make sure that your spiritual life is in order.
Absolutely.
Because the biggest problem that we're facing right now is we have lost our moral compass as a country because we have released our hold on our faith. Robbie and I both are Christians. You may be something else, whatever. But you've got to have some kind of balance, because if you don't, and everything is permissible and everything can happen, it's total chaos. We've got to have that order. And one thing about it for us is our faith gives us discipline. And I'm going to relate this one last story, and then we're going to click out. Years ago, I'm sitting here, and I've relayed this story in the past. So if you're one of my followers, you've heard it. But years ago, when my son Seth, he was probably about 11. And I was reorganizing some of our long-term food storage. And so we were putting it on pallets, we were setting it up, we were checking it out, and he was helping me. And he looked at me and he said, Dad, why do we have all this food? What are we doing with this food? And I said, son, that hopefully we'll never have to face this. I said, but if anything were to happen to where there was some kind of issue going on where we couldn't have food, we couldn't get food, I said, we've got food, because food's basic. Food's as a necessity. Mm-hmm. And I said, and if we don't need it, fine. But if we need it, we have it. And I said, and as a dad, it's my responsibility to take care of you and your brother and sister and your mother and those that we can help. I said, but here's the other side of it. Let's say we don't have food, and let's say we have a massive, some kind of disaster. And I said, what's stopping me from going up and down this road that I live on and at gunpoint taking everything that these people have? Because I've been shooting all my life. I'm, again, martial arts. I wrestled in school. I mean, it just is what it is. And I said, what's going to stop me from doing that? I said, now, because of my faith, I can't do that. I said, but having this food keeps me from being tempted to do it. So, guys, it's important to get your mental toughness. It's important to get your discipline to a certain level. You need discipline in your life, because discipline breeds success. Without discipline, there's no success. There's none. On that note, we really appreciate Exotac for sponsoring today's episode, and you get 20% off, which is amazing. 20% off any Exotac product using Sootch 20 with the link down below in the description. It is an affiliate link. We really appreciate Exotac for doing that. Also, we really appreciate Robbie Wheaton for being here, and it's just great to have him here to exude the knowledge and the wisdom that we get. And it is great because those experiences and those disciplines that I know that Robbie's been through really applied to this situation, and it usually does. And go check out WheatonArms.com. Great source for Glock aftermarket parts. Again, that flat face trigger is absolutely the bomb.com, and the GoMedGear.com. You need your medical supplies. Sarah Mack, we appreciate her for keeping us straight and kind of keeping us up on our questions. So we're going to sign off. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.